Stand by to launch FanStream Sports.
3, 2, 1.
Let's start.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to FanStream Sports. Nothing but pure sports. This is the JP Show.
JP, it is so good to hear you back on the air.
Stand by. Now, here's JP.
All righty, and welcome into another edition of the JP Peterson Show on this funky Friday, man. We got so much to get to today. This is going to be a lot of fun. Earth-shaking shake-up at One Buck Place that honestly did not see this one coming. Obviously, we'd seen Dave Canales interview, but I said on the show yesterday there's a lot of more vested candidates in front of him that I think might be a better choice. But in the end, Dave Canales is off to the Carolina Panthers. Raheem Morris gets the nod over Bill Belichick, said no one ever. Yes, it happened. It has happened. What the hell is going on in the National Football League? It is unprecedented. The Bolts get a big win last night. All kinds of fun stuff to talk about. Good morning to you, Nick Geddes from On3 Sports. How are you?
I'm doing well here on I guess we could still call it a football Friday because the news never ends.
Friday. Yeah.
By the way, shout out to the Bucks. Before we get into the news of yesterday, happy 21st anniversary of the Bucks' first Super Bowl victory. Was going through the Twitter. I was typing in Bucks Raiders Super Bowl, and I was looking at all the videos that were coming across my timeline today. Great memories for sure.
Boy, do I have some great memories of that
absolutely.
week in San Diego, man. That was probably, I would have to say, of all the things I've gotten to do in my career, that was definitely the highlight of my career. To be out there with your team in the Super Bowl, and at that particular time, News Channel 8, where I was the sports director, was the Bucks official station. We were the number one rated local news station back when people really watched local news. So it was a big deal. It was a really big deal. I mean, I got to do live interviews with Troy Aikman and every Hall of Famer, Kurt Warner. I mean, just so many people coming through. Like at Torrey Pines, we had our live setup, and it was just like one right after another. It was just, I'm like sitting there going, holy crap, is this really happening? Am I really sitting next to these guys talking Super Bowl and talking football with these guys? It was an incredible experience I will never forget. And the way the Bucks performed in that game was, that was a virtuoso performance and maybe one of the best Super Bowl performances by a team in the game's history. I mean, that was one of the biggest blowouts in the game's history. And, and it's something the Bucks will forever own, that trophy, the first major championship for the Tampa Bay region, with all due respect to the Tampa Bay Storm. Just absolutely amazing day. I could go on for hours, but that's not why we're here today. We'll do that. We'll do that one time this summer. That'll be fun. We'll do that. Get some of the players that were there and have some fun reliving that. But this is a very interesting time for the Buccaneers, Nick, and we were having a little off the air conversation about what the future of this league is and how important it is to have a great offensive minds and great offensive coaches within your coaching ranks or at the top as the head coach. This coaching hiring cycle is unlike anything I've ever seen in NFL history. I mean, Dave Canales, a 42-year-old who had 1 year as a coordinator and, yes, did a great job with Baker Mayfield, who I thought was fertile ground. I mean, I really did. I thought there was a great opportunity for Baker Mayfield to resurrect his career, not just because of Dave Canales, and I'm not taking anything away from Dave Canales, but Baker Mayfield, the way he works, the talent that he had coming into a stable situation, so to speak, with great weapons in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. They're in Rachaad White. There was an opportunity for Baker Mayfield to have a good year. And I think it all came together for them. But let's not forget, this was an offense that's still ranked in the bottom third of the league in terms of points scored. So it's not like, the Buccaneers are losing Sean McVay here. I would caution people who fell in love with Dave Canales to revisit the Saints and Carolina Panthers games, Detroit Lions regular season games. There was a lot of duds in there. And that was to be expected because of the newness, the fact he'd never called plays before. Is he a bright young head coach? Absolutely. Is he a great leader of men? I think he is. I think he needs a little bit more seasoning. but I think he is a great leader of men. His positivity, I think his faith is another very important part of his success because of it adds to his genuineness and authenticity, which I think is absolutely critical to being a great head coach. Unfortunately for Dave, he's walking into a dumpster fire. He's got a horrible meddling owner, an undersized quarterback who's lost all his confidence, a horrible offensive line, no first-round pick, halfway decent defense, but a team that is devoid of real playmakers and talent. That's a tough ask, and I understand you take your shot, but he's got a long road ahead of him and a very impatient owner. None of that adds up to anything good except you'll be able to collect a paycheck while not working for quite some time, apparently, just like Frank Reich. So I for Dave, I'm happy for him. I think it's fantastic. I wish him the best. But if he can squeeze 6 wins out of this team, he's coach of the year. So it's a tough ask. What are your thoughts?
I mean, he also got the 6-year contract, which doesn't really happen often. And so that kind of tells you, I mean, you like to think that that's a sign that they're going to have some patience with him. But when it comes to David Tepper, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
I just will. But listen, the fit itself, I mean, I said on Monday I thought it was a year early for Dave Canales. But again, who am I to say something like that? I mean, everybody has to take their own risk in their life to get where you want to go. And when there's only 32 of these things open.
Yep.
And as we talked about, Byron Leftwich 2 years ago, he was at the forefront of a lot of people's minds when it came to a head coaching job. He didn't take it, and now he's not a coach anywhere.
Right.
It doesn't seem like he's like anybody wants him. His coaching career might be over for all we know. It changes that quick in the NFL. So if you're Canales, you get that offer. Of course, he probably got paid. He's definitely getting paid pretty good. He gets the contract. Yeah, I see why you take it. And it's honestly a good situation from the standpoint that Dan Morgan did come over, and he's got a relationship there with him. I'm going to assume that he's going to build his staff around, I could see Brad Idzik obviously going with him. Maybe he becomes his offensive coordinator by chance. I mean, so he's got some guys that he's worked with for a while that are available, kind of take with him if he wants to. So I think we're all going to be rooting for Dave Canales. I know there's the tribalism factor here because he's in Carolina. But the people that are saying today that he's a traitor and all this stuff, just please spare me. Like, come on. I think that's ridiculous. But I'm going to be rooting for Dave Canales because this is a hard job to pull off for sure. Yeah. And I think we always saw, going back to his first press conference here as the offensive coordinator for the Bucs, I think we all kind of looked at each other and said, okay, that dude carries himself like a future head coach.
Yeah, he's a good man.
I think we saw it coming for sure.
And he's a good man. He didn't belittle people in press conferences. He didn't talk down to us. He was very open, very candid, very positive guy. I mean, you just look at all the quotes from the players on the way out, how much they enjoyed working with Dave Canales. There's no question he's a difference maker. But I also feel the same way about Thad Lewis. And the players speak about him in very much the same way. A super positive guy, a really bright guy, a guy that's played in this league. He was a backup quarterback for 8 seasons. He graduated from Duke in 3.5 years. Really, really knows the game and has played the game. I mean, that's a great combination. When you're affable and you have great communication skills and you've played the game and you know the game, I mean, this dude this is why the Raiders wanted to talk to him. He's got special written all over him. And I think he's a future head coach. Well, so I think your continuity is the most important thing right now offensively. Continuity wins in this league. And if you can stick with the same offense, the same terminology, which is exactly what Thad Lewis would do. I don't know why you would change it. Stick with the same terminology. Go sign Baker Mayfield. Go sign Mike Evans. The problem is, and this is an interesting situation right now. As much as we feel like, the Bucs have a bright future here, they've laid a foundation. They're going forward. Baker Mayfield's a free agent. Mike Evans is a free agent.
Right.
These people can go anywhere they want. Unless you're going to franchise them, but wouldn't seem right. They can go wherever they want. You have no offense coordinator. You have no quarterback under contract other than Kyle Trask, and you don't have Mike Evans. I mean, that's bleak. Now, I've heard people say, what if they all go to Carolina? That would suck. That would suck out loud. Yeah, but Bryce, they have an investment in Bryce Young, so I don't think he's going
They
anywhere.
already went the Baker experiment once.
Yeah, exactly. So Baker's not going back there. So that's not happening. But the point being, those guys could go elsewhere. And then
Well,
what are the Bucks looking at?
Well, I will say, I mean, other than the Bucks being, I guess, losers by being one of the losers yesterday and Canales leaving, because I do think it is a big deal. I mean, the Bucks offense was not one of the best offenses in football by any means, but they showed enough last year, like they were moving in the right direction, and I think we were all excited for year 2 under Canales, what it was going to look like. And at the end of the season, when they're on national TV, the offense plays really well. And so that helps Canales as well, I'm sure, that he was right there in the forefront of everyone watching, and the offense performed well, and Baker did as well. But other than the Bucks being losers, I think this is the part that sucks is Baker Mayfield. It's like, can this guy, and I'm running out of hope for this, if he's ever going to find stability in the NFL. I mean, this looked like a guaranteed shot that if he just played well this year, which he did, and Canales would be back next year, and he'd at least get 2 years in this system, and now that's not happening. And so I think
it could.
Well, hold
Thad
on.
Lewis is elevated, and then they stay.
Well, here's my thing about
system.
Thad Lewis. Everybody's bringing up Thad Lewis, and you said you think he could be special. Well, you know what? I know he was a BA guy first. Okay. I recall BA saying that a certain other someone named Byron Leftwich was special. That didn't work out so well. And here's my thing with that. Okay. And listen, I don't have the answers to this, so I'm just kind of talking out loud right now. If Thad Lewis is your OC, is he giving me what he got from Bruce? Or is he giving me what he just got from Dave?
Both.
That's the questions I want to know before I'm bringing in Thad. Or is he going to try to marry the two? Take things that worked under Bruce's system, take things that work under Dave, modernize it, things like that. Those are the questions I would want to know before I moved forward with Thad Lewis. Although saying that, it might be the smartest move overall if you're looking for continuity, if you want to bring back Baker Mayfield, because at least he has a relationship with Thad Lewis.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point that you make there. But I think continuity is king. And what you said about Baker is absolutely right. He craves going into an offseason, working with the same offense, same players, and building on what you did. That's the key to getting better in this league. It's very rare for a first-year coach, first-year offense to come in, speaking of the Super Bowl, but John Gruden was able to do that. And it took time for that offense to come together. But you're also working with one of the greatest defenses in the history of the game. That offense was okay for most of it, for the first part of the season, got hot at the end, and obviously won the Super Bowl. But Thad Lewis, I think, brings you that continuity. And I'm Todd Bowles. I say, no, you're not installing the Bruce Arians offense. Now, if you want to take some of those concepts and work them into this offense with this terminology, absolutely. You want to build on what you did. You don't want to just go into this season going, okay, let's do exactly what we did last year, because that was 20th best in the league in terms of scoring. That's not good enough. That's not getting you where you need to be. You need to be in the top 10. Or at least the top 15. And with this defense, as it continues to grow and get better, and you add to it, now you're starting to work with something. So I think it's absolutely critical. I mean, critical that you hire Thad Lewis and keep the continuity going.
Yeah, but I would still though, search around to see what's out there, because I think there is a lot of experienced coordinator candidates that are out there. And whereas last year you weren't really a desirable spot for pretty much anybody, and that's how you landed Dave Canales in the first place, and obviously it ended up working out better than we all hoped. This time around, I think you are a more desirable spot for some of these OCs out there. And I saw someone mention it in the chat, and I went and checked, and this came down like 5 minutes ago. The Bucks are interviewing Kellen Moore, who is one of those OCs that has play calling experience in Dallas, obviously, and then last year with the Chargers. I'd have to dive more deeper into Kellen Moore to get up to speed with that. I do recall Dallas fans not exactly being
no,
they weren't exactly crying. Let's just put it that way when he left. So
he also oversaw a team that scored 40 points a game, the number 1 or 2 offense in the league.
He did, yes. Yeah. Very talented team at but still, he was the OC.
I think Kellen Moore is a good offense coordinator, but I also think continuity is more important. Plays are plays. Right. I mean, and it's not like this offense that Dave Canales installed is some archaic, dare I say, Bruce Arians, no risk it, no biscuit offense. It's not. It's a very modern Sean McVay hybrid type offense, which is what everybody wants in this league right now. This is the type of offense that gives Todd Bowles fits, which is why he hired Dave Canales. He wants this type of offense with the misdirection and all the different things, the pre-snap motion, those things that help the quarterback, moving the quarterback, all those things. So you've got a template here to work with that as a modern offense that has great upside, that's working in this league right now, copycat league, right? And if you can keep the same voice in Baker Mayfield's ear in Thad Lewis, and all that Thad Lewis learned from Dave Canales, I just don't see how that's not the best idea in this situation. Is Thad Lewis Byron Leftwich? I'm here to tell you that is a hard no. That is a hard no. I don't know Thad Lewis that well. I've seen him speak a few times, been in, the gangbang with the reporters and chatted with him, but I also read a lot of the quotes that the players talk about him. And the quotes are very similar to how they talk about Dave Canales. And in my experience, just listening to Thad talk, and yeah, he's a super smart guy. He's got great charisma. He's a lot like Dave Canales, except he played the game at a high level, at a very high level. So I just think, he's Todd Bowles speaks about him in those same tones as everybody talks about Dave Canales. So I think this is a layup. I really don't think this is hard. It's a layup. And if I'm the Bucs, I guess you have to interview other candidates. I guess you do. And I don't know what that situation is with the Raiders. If he wants to go work for the Raiders, I know that he was asked, the Bucs were asked permission. I'd shut that down immediately and say, no, we're hiring him.
Well, yeah. But I do think there's other options out there. Again, like I said, that I would explore, and like some of the ones that I was gonna bring up today, and they're very familiar names, by the way. Okay, and I think they have good track records for the short time that they've been They're all quarterback coaches, by the way, which is obviously what Thad was. Brian Griese, who is San Francisco's quarterback coach. I mean, do I have to even go on about Brock Purdy after that, and the fact that he's tied to Shanahan and that offense? Mark Brunell, quarterback coach for the Lions, very tied to Ben Johnson and what he runs. And then obviously Gerard Johnson, quarterback coach for the Texans and what CJ Stroud did. And he's tied to Slowick, whose system is mostly tied to Shanahan. Like, I think that's what I'm saying. Like, I would entertain some of those kind of hires because I know those guys are around offenses that are some of the best schemed offenses in the entire league. Yeah. And they have a track record. All those three quarterbacks that they've worked with have hit big. And, all of them, were playing in the playoffs this year, and two of them are still playing right now. So those are just some of the outside options that I'm going to throw out there for now. But certainly, like you said, it's not a bad option necessarily to just keep it in-house with that as well.
Yeah, those are great names and great options. No question about it. I've heard great things about all of them. Brian Griese, I know a little bit from his time here in Tampa Bay. And he's done a fantastic job acclimating to coaching, getting high marks everywhere. But again, these would be all new. Probably new terminology, new schemes, and you got to start at ground zero, man. And I think that's a humongous step back. And let's just say that Brian Griese brings you maybe 10, 15% more talent in how do you even measure that, right? I'm just saying as an example in play calling or whether I don't even think Brian's done play calling because I don't think he has any of these guys.
Right. These are all first time. These are all would be first time play callers.
So how much better
in the NFL?
How much more are they bringing to the table that's going to offset the fact that you have to go back and start at ground zero with the new offense? And for Baker, I think you better be really, really good and offer something super, super special,
right?
For us to go back and this is coming from a quarterback's mindset and a receiver's mindset, and all of that is these guys. I'm telling you, if they did have to learn a new offense, the first thing they all would do would go, "Oh, dude, all right." I mean, you know how much? I mean, I'm not saying they're lazy, but I would rather them take that time that they've got to use to learn all the new offense and memorize all the new stuff and put that into building, into that time, into building on what they've already done. This is the time when your offense goes from good to special, because what do we always talk about? It's the details. It's the minute details. You can't work on details when you're working on macro. You can't. It's impossible. Right. You got to get the macro down first before you can get to the micro. So, and that's where the winning edge is. That the continuity, the Brady, the year after year, the same stuff. No, and that it takes time to build. Why go back to ground zero when you can move forward? I understand some of these other candidates may be great, but if I think that's how important I think continuity is. When you talk to the players and coaches about this, that's where they go. So, yeah, I hear you. Those are some very talented and smart guys.
Yeah.
But
but there's also guys, like I said, who have called plays. Like I said, I mentioned Kellen Moore just now. Another name that's getting an interview with the Bucs is Brian Johnson, who was the Eagles OC.
No, thank you.
He's a hard pass for me personally. I don't like the way that ended in Philly whatsoever. So I'm balking there. But
what did Sal Powell tell us? 26% pre-snap motion. The league average is like 52. I mean,
Canales did not get high grades in that fact either, by the way. The motion. The Bucs were still in the bottom half of the league in motion. So, I would personally pass on that. But again, this whole conversation we're having right now about the offensive coordinator, this is the part that it feels weird to bring up today. Because, listen, before I even say it, I guess I should preface this. Todd Bowles' job is safe, okay? He's not going anywhere unless the Glazers just completely...
Unless Todd Monken wins a Super Bowl with the Ravens.
Something
they score 40 points this week and 50 in the Super Bowl, and he's out there, and you still need an OC, and you're like...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel weird even bringing it up because I really don't want to put this out here because I think Todd Bowles' job is safe, but I'm just going to say it. This is the danger, I guess, or the risk, rather, I would put it, of having a defensive head coach in 2024. And listen, having a skilled offensive head coach is not exactly the end-all, be-all necessarily, but it's certainly the trend of where the league is certainly going. And if you have a defensive head coach, you better be damn sure that he is one of the best head coaches in the entire league, I think. Yep. And to feel comfortable about it, because then you're always going to be looking for offensive coordinators, because typically your offensive coordinator is going to be the most important person you're building on your coaching staff, obviously, and it's going to be a big part of the success that you end up having. And when he has success, he's going to be so desirable, he's going to get a head coaching job somewhere else. Yep. And in the case of Dave Canales, the Bucs didn't even have one of the best offenses.
I know.
And he still got poached. And this is a very deep, coaching pool, too, mind you. And Canales got picked. And follow the trends of the league. We are in a scenario where 3 head coaches, Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, and Pete Carroll, they're all on the market right now.
Yep.
And we are facing a likely scenario where none of them are a head coach next year, where everybody would have said, oh, those are the top coaching candidates right there. Yep. But that's just not where the league is. We had a lot of first-time head coaches this time around. Harbaugh's the only one over 50, I believe, that got a head coaching job. I mean, you follow what the league is now.
Yeah, so and we'll talk. Dan Lucas is going to join us at 10:30. We'll talk more about the Bucs situation. So I want to transfer a little bit into the Raheem Morris situation. And yes, the Atlanta Falcons have hired Raheem Morris over Bill Belichick. Sandra Golden's going to join us at 11:30, and from Atlanta Sports Talk Radio. I talked to a couple of my Atlanta connections, and the word, there's word out on the street that Bill Belichick didn't want the job because too much interference in the front office, meddling, I want to say meddling owner, but an involved owner in Arthur Blank. I have tons of respect for Arthur Blank, but he's one of the owners that, it wants to be briefed by the head coach and talk to the head coach and be involved in not in decision-making, but just know. But again, when you have a head coach, an owner that you're talking to all the time, even though he may not, suggest things or say things, it's just different. It's just different. The Glazers aren't in meetings. I'd rather have it that way. If I'm running the team, I'd rather have that way. It's keep the things separate, hire guys to do the job, let them do their job. So Bill Belichick, as I've heard it, there were people in the building in Atlanta that were uncomfortable with the fact that Bill Belichick wanted so much control, and that he was going to come in and run everything. I would put Rich McKay probably in that category. Now, Rich, by the way, has been kind of moved out of football operations into kind of overseeing the soccer team and everything else, while Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris are going to run the football side of the Falcons. So maybe a little bit of a different change there in terms of, because as it was, Arthur Smith was reporting to Rich McKay, who was then, reporting to Arthur Blank. So you got a lot of cooks in the kitchen there. They're going to try to streamline that a little bit up there. But I think very much so, Arthur wanted Bill Belichick. And I think that he was kind of persuaded out of Bill Belichick into Raheem Morris. And it sounds a lot like the Bucs coaching search when they came up with John Gruden, because Rich McKay was very adamant not to hire John Gruden and not to give away all the compensation to get him. He was very much against that move, which obviously turned out to bring you a Super Bowl. He wanted Marvin Lewis. In fact, had Marvin Lewis ready to go to become the next head coach of the Buccaneers without any compensation. Would Marvin Lewis have been able to win the Super Bowl? I don't know. We'll never know that. But we know this: John Gruden did. Mm-hmm. And the compensation that was given up for him now probably crippled you for many years to come, but you won a Super Bowl. End of story. It worked. Whatever you did, it worked. That was it. So this sounds very similar. Sounds very, very similar. But instead, Gruden didn't get the job. This would be the Marvin Lewis kind of solution. So I love Raheem, and he was not ready to be a head coach when he was tabbed many, many years ago. Remember that. He was tabbed because he was a cheap option who would be a puppet and listen to everything that the Glazers told him to do. Said, you're not getting any free agents because we're going to buy Man United. We don't have any cash to fit. It didn't say that, but that's what happened. For 3 years,
he still went 10-6 with Josh
he won 10
Freeman
games.
and Mike Williams as rookies. So
yeah, exactly. So really talented guy, great communicator, really meshes well with the players. But therein lies a problem as well. Players, coaches, are you an a-hole enough to hold them accountable? Will they feel the requisite amount of fear to be held accountable and get the job done? That's the thing that Raheem's going to, I don't want to say struggle with, but I think that's going to be, the positives are they're going to love playing for him and they're going to play hard for him. And that's going to be a great relationship. The negatives will be, it's kind of something similar we see with Todd Bowles. Will the accountability be there? Will the guys have the requisite fear? Will he play favorites with certain players? When you get close to your players, these are things that can creep in there that can be negatives. They can be positives, but they can also be negatives. See Devin White.
Well, am I the only one? Am I the only one who thinks that Raheem Morris is? I'd rather have Raheem Morris than Bill Belichick. I'll just put it that way.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. 100%.
I think the Falcons are dodging a huge bullet. Personally,
I agree. I agree.
Like I don't like I know the idea that Bill Belichick not being in football.
Oh, we lost Nick. See what happens when you curse Bill Belichick? The football gods will come down. I thought they were going to strike me dead when I did that. Yeah, it's crazy. Bill Belichick is the greatest coach to ever do it, but that was a different time with a different quarterback. And sans Tom Brady, he has been a below average coach, and clearly it seems like the game has passed him by. So that is what it is. All right, we've temporarily lost Nick Geddes, so we'll take a quick break. My man Dan Lucas is on. JP here from my friends at your local Synovus Bank, and I do mean friends, and I do mean local. One of the local managers in Tampa is John Acosta, big fan of the show, and I've known him for over 40 years. He's been in local banking since 1983. You talk about developing relationships. You don't stick around for that long unless you're doing things the right way and have a great reputation, and that's the focus company-wide at Synovus. Big enough to handle any complex international transaction, but small enough to answer the phone when you have an urgent question about your business or personal account. And for personal accounts, they have a very easy app that works great. You can do everything online. And for large or small businesses, you will get that personal touch and services to help build your business, taking your dreams and aspirations from the whiteboard to reality. We can make that happen. Let us show you how. For a get acquainted meeting to open a business or personal account, just call John or go to synovus.com to find out where your local branch is. All right, this is for all you guys who don't want to go to the gym and do 5,000 crunches. At Bay Area Modern Medical Center, you can get on the new True Body machine where you can reduce fat and tone up your muscle. It's like doing 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Define your body as you see fit. True Body offers personalized muscle stimulation that delivers the equivalent of those 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Just get in touch with them at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Chris Lugo and the team over there will set you up on True Body and get amazing results. Non-invasive with comfortable and little to no pain and zero downtime. You can isolate and target those areas that you want to improve and treat multiple areas simultaneously. It's an amazing machine, so check it out at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. JP here for the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Geddes. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA two-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or trying to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Geddes and the Geddes Gordon Group because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to geddesgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com or call 813-485-6808.
Let's go.
Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show here as we roll on, brought to you by the Jeeves Law Group, JEEVESLawgroup.com. Get that personal attention from a smaller law firm, but still big enough to take on the big insurance companies. They get great settlements. They will take your case to trial, and the insurance companies know it. That's why you'll get a better settlement. Jeeves Law Group, JEEVESLawgroup.com. They are local. Scott's a big fan of the program, big fan of the Florida Gators. We love him. So if you want to check in with the law firm, Jeeves Law Group, they will give you a free case evaluation. So if you think you have a case, call them up, find out. It's free, and they'll let you know. JeevesLawGroup.com. All right, let's welcome in our good friend, the great Dan Lucas from News Channel 8. Sitting out on the patio once again, enjoying this beautiful Tampa weather while they're freezing their ass off up north. What's up, partner? How are you?
Yeah, let me tell you, the old smoker here is going to be churning out. It's going to be churning out some burnt ends tomorrow afternoon.
Nice.
So yeah, we here in Florida, you just got to suck it up and deal with it, man. You just got to get through winter. Got to trudge through.
Brutal.
Got to do it. Got to do it. The other day we were up in Detroit doing live shots outside on Saturday, and in between hits, we would pick up our things and scurry across the street.
Ooh.
Back inside the Renaissance Tower, the big GM Tower, and just stand inside the door because it was so cold.
Was it 13 outside?
It was almost 10 degrees when we were out there Saturday night. And then it's Sunday getting to the stadium, which, by the way, was barely a 1-block walk from the Uber. We trudged in 17-degree weather over the snow-banked streets of Detroit. We survived somehow.
Well, I thought Todd Bowles had a good plan for the weather. I thought he was.
I thought so too.
Thought they were buttoned up, ready to go.
They acclimated pretty well.
I think they did.
I'll say this. The way Ford Field is laid out, the only way onto the field. There's one tunnel in the corner. Everything else is closed off. So everything comes out of one tunnel. The teams, if you have concerts, all the trucks, everything comes out of that one tunnel, which leads directly to the loading dock. So as soon as the game was over, all the loading dock doors were open.
Oh,
and you're walking around inside the hallways towards the locker room. You're like, damn, somebody turn
it's
up the thermostat.
freezing. Yes.
Exactly. I'm
That's a
not
bad
dressed for
design.
this. Yes, I'm not dressed for this. This is ridiculous. So glad to be back. Glad to be back.
Internet shaky this morning everywhere. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Oh, you're back. You're back.
I'm back. Yeah, I know. It's been on and off. I've been watching the show. It's kind of cranky.
Nikki went down, but everybody's back. All right. So before we get to the latest developments, give me your thoughts on Detroit. You were there, the atmosphere, the feeling on how the guys played, just your overall thought on. I thought it was.
Nick, I can see Nick, but JP froze up on me there a little bit. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me. Got a little cranky internet here. It's frozen.
All right, I think I got you back, right?
I got you, Nick.
Yeah.
Or I can.
Yeah. I
We
know.
lost JP.
I
Down
lost.
goes JP.
I know. I went down earlier. I was like mid-sentence before our last break. Oh, my goodness. I know JP's out. Let's see if we can get him back. My goodness.
Yeah,
oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sometimes the internet's cranky, my friend. Poor Nick's frozen. I can see you, Nick. This is the beauty of live TV, baby.
I know. I start talking, then all of a sudden I see like the little squirrely going on my thing, and I'm like, all right, is Dan still here? So we'll try to continue on as long as you can hear me, but I'll just build off what JP was saying, the atmosphere down there and how you think the Bucks kind of performed in a losing effort, obviously.
Well, first of all, Nick, hopefully we stick around here, but on the internet. But the atmosphere was tremendous, and I'm actually happy for Lions fans because I've been in that building 3 times, and the previous 2, the place was just like a morgue. It was just half full, silent. This time it was like a true home field advantage. It was outstanding. Loved it. It's great. It was great for Lions fans to get to experience this season for their team, and the atmosphere showed that Sunday. I thought it was terrific.
I'm back. It's like virtual resurrection. We die and we come back. We circle the drain, much like my life. I circle the drain and then I come back with a vengeance.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So it was fun. It was fun to watch. It really was fun to watch, and I think it's one of those. We were just talking about the 21st anniversary of the Bucks Super Bowl, and it was the greatest week of my career and life, and I'll never forget it. I'm not going to go that far for that particular playoff game, but it's one that will go down in Bucks history, and I think certainly laid a foundation for the future, which brings us to this week. and the loss of Dave Canales. I
Mm-hmm.
am very much in the elevate Thad Lewis, continuity is king, keep it rolling, sign Baker, sign Mike, let's go. What are your thoughts, Dan?
That's the only thing they can do. Go internal and keep the band together as much as possible this off season. Because talking to the guys Sunday, they were dejected immediately after the loss. But I asked as many guys as I could, "Do you feel like this is a championship team?" And they all said, "Yes, we do. If they can keep this together." And then everybody knows. Even Rashad White said, "Business is business." But he feels like if Jason Light can get the job done, that this is going to be a team in contention next year.
I love what Canales did, and I think it was also, I think Baker Mayfield, as I said earlier, was fertile ground. I thought there was an opportunity. The guy's talented. He's shown to be a great leader this year. I mean, we got to see it up close and personal, and Dan, you as well. So I think there was a lot of good stuff here. Dave Canales certainly was part of the ingredients. There's no question about it. But a lot of the fans, thinking this is some type of death knell and we should have made Canales the head coach and fired Bowles. And I'm like, okay, let's pump the brakes. I love Dave too. Very handsome man, very charismatic. But I think we'll survive with Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and an elevated at Thad Lewis, if that's the case. Your thoughts?
Well, some of these fans are the ones who said Canales just isn't going to be the guy when we
true.
got into October. So
Right.
he had to learn on the job. And, there's two sides to it. One, I love Canales, so I want to see him succeed. However, we were here for the Raheem Morris elevation.
Yeah.
Was it before your time? I know the age is still a little different between Raheem and Canales where he is today. But, Canales has taken on a complete trash heap. And we'll see how he's able to fare. Raheem Morris came into a situation, had some success, and then the third year, the final year, didn't, and it took him over a decade to get back. That's my fear for Canales if it doesn't work out well here in Carolina. Plus, I don't think I'm going on a limb saying that this owner, the Carolina owner, is just an absolute loose cannon. And you're signing up for it, so in advance what you're getting into. But I just think that franchise is an absolute mess.
Yeah.
And I wish Canales the best, but if it doesn't work out well, he could be the guy waiting 10 years
and just like that
for his next shot. That's the thing.
Yeah, that might be an insult to loose cannons, to be quite honest here.
Sometimes loose cannons hit the target.
Hey, Dan, I was gonna try to get your opinion on this. I brought this up. Obviously Todd Bowles' job is safe, and he earned that right and everything for at least one more year. But the Bucs didn't even have one of the best offenses in football this year, and they still saw their offensive coordinator get poached away. And this is a very deep class of coaches as well. And Canales still got a job. You think that this just shows the risk of having a defensive head coach in today's NFL? Because it seems like, your offensive coordinator is like your most important guy on your staff, obviously. And if he's successful, well, he's just going to get hired away the next coaching cycle. And of course, that means in the end, you're successful. So I guess you're winning games. So there's two sides to it. But it feels like we could be in danger of it being a cycle, don't you think?
Possibly, and I think, Nick, no matter what happens, the Todd Bowles is on the hot seat immediately next season because the team is going to have expectations placed on him. But I think the one thing about a veteran coach, particularly a defensive coach, is he's smart enough to bring on his staff people who can run this high level of an offense. And he took a chance on Dave Canales coming here. There wasn't a proven track record of play calling and that sort of thing. Canales has worked different positions as an offensive assistant, so he's well-rounded. He's been surrounded by good coordinators. Obviously, Pete Carroll was a great head coach, but he had to come in and prove himself as a play caller. So that was a bit of a roll of the dice as well, even though Canales had a good reputation. So anyone who comes into that role as offensive coordinator, even a hire from within, is going to have a little bit of leeway and some room to grow in the position. Canales did. Everything hit when it had to. I think the resurrection of Baker Mayfield is what Dave Canales is wearing, and having come off working with Geno Smith the year prior, that was, it's a reputation hire. It's a reputation hire, and they're hoping that he'll do the same magic with Bryce Young.
Dan Lucas joining us here from News Channel 8. We apologize for some of the interference here on the Wi-Fi, but we're doing the best we can. What were your thoughts of Raheem getting the job over Belichick in Atlanta? My sources are telling me that Rich McKay was not in favor of the Belichick hire. Arthur Blank wanted to hire Belichick. Of course, yeah. Wanted to hire Belichick. And in the end, it was kind of a consensus that they go with the younger guy and Raheem Morris. I think they made the right choice. I know it sounds crazy, and I'm not saying Raheem is going to win a Super Bowl because most coaches don't, right? Most coaches don't. Will he make them competitive? I think he's got a shot. Find a quarterback. He'll run a great defense. They already got a top 10 defense. He brings a lot of energy, a lot of charisma. I think it's a better hire than Belichick. Will it be, we'll get him over the hump? We'll see. What do you think?
Well, first of all, Rich McKay lost one pissing contest.
Yes.
With a head coach, and it cost him. And he was able to get to Atlanta and get himself kind of resurrected. And I know Falcons fans criticize Rich McKay, but I think the guy is one hell of an executive in the front office. Knows what he's doing. I think a lot of people think they are a quarterback away from doing what the Bucs have done.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see what Raheem has gathered in this past decade as a CEO, which was his downfall here. He didn't know how to, he was a player's coach. Players loved him. He did not know how to manage the position. And it was very bizarre the way he ascended to head coach here. Basically it was, he was the defensive coordinator for hours, and then became, I think it was the Broncos who wanted to interview him for head coach. And next thing you know, he's the Bucs head coach. So it was just bizarre the way that all took place. And it's easy to say, he wasn't ready. Well, he wasn't ready for that role,
right?
As far as managing people, managing the assistants, and keeping the team going in the straight direction that way. He was a hands-on defensive backs guy.
Yeah.
And he's now coordinated both sides of football. I just feel like he's more, I guess you could say, mature, and that's a football sense, to run a football team. And this is his chance to come back. He's not going to want to screw it up. I'm happy for the guy.
Yeah, me too.
And I think it's a good move. I don't know if Belichick is the modern day NFL head coach anymore. It sounds sacrilege to say, but I just don't. The teams aren't lined up to pick him. If they would have, if they were.
Yeah, I agree.
And by the way, now we're also just one Saints move away. If they hire John Gruden as their OC, so everybody was talking about it yesterday. I brought it up. We are so close to having just the full Bucs reunion in the NFC South. And I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with Gruden, if the NFL is going to allow him to come back in here with this lawsuit and everything. But talk about storyline for going forward. Terrific. It'd be crazy.
I think this division needs a kick in the arse. I mean, this division has just been garbage, and it's a mockery. Thank God the Bucs were 9-8, not 8-9 this year, to win the division. And it's going to be harder for the Bucs to win the division if these teams all catch on. But that's what the NFC South needs. It's just, it might be the worst in football.
You think? I'll tell you what. If he does become the OC in New Orleans, I give it 8 games before he's the head coach.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
As I told Jaws when Gruden joined Monday Night Football, you got a year left, maybe 2. Maybe 2. But he will, with wherever John goes, people seem to leave, and he seems to take over. So we'll see how that goes. I don't think the NFL is going to let him back in football, and I don't. I mean, and if he does get the job, I'm guessing those emails are going to resurface.
Yeah,
nobody wants to read those. No, and I don't know how any other NFL players. I'm not saying what happened to him was done the right way and what happened, but those were his emails, and those are going to stick to him.
They were his emails, and the rotten part of that whole situation was. Not defending what he wrote or said.
Yeah.
The rotten part of it is that all surfaced in an investigation of someone completely unrelated to him.
Yes.
and had no in my opinion, legal business being put out there. So that I'll say that. So he was definitely the target of someone.
Yeah.
You can fill in the blank with whoever you want. But,
There were a lot of people on that list. That's just
but I
saying.
know this. But I know
Roger
this.
Goodell was one of them, by the way. Yeah.
So when he was out of football for a while for the Monday night thing, he was going out to Carrollwood Day because I know his son was playing quarterback and all that.
Yes.
And he went out there, he was bored to tears, and he all of a sudden starts renting the lift things, the cherry pick things to shoot film at practice because he's such a junkie about football. Can you imagine him now getting the keys
Oh my
to the
God.
Saints offense? I mean, he's gonna want to do that. He's gonna take over in a heartbeat. Absolutely.
And Carr goes down and it's him and Jameis in the room. Oh God, just make it live. Just put it on. I'll watch
Right,
it nonstop.
exactly.
I'll watch it that's all I'll watch all day long. You talk about 1,000-pound sisters, my God, forget about it. Jameis and Gruden in the room all day long.
Exactly.
I couldn't get enough of that. Oh my God. All right, I got to ask you about this. You spent yesterday, as I'm so freaking jealous, watching Nelly Corda hit golf balls, which is one of my favorite things to do. The most beautiful swing I think I've ever seen in golf, and a wonderful player. One of obviously the number one player in the ladies game or close to it. What's going on there? And a lot of local favorites playing down there as well, right?
Yeah, Nelly Corda is just a gem. She's a pleasure to be around, outgoing. I hope she always stays that way, even though all the success she's had, and there's a lot in front of her as well. But, last year was a difficult year for her. She had blood clots. It really sabotaged her year, and she came back. She played at the end. There was an event here in December over in Pinellas County she played in. And her game wasn't really on. But, yesterday she ended up tied for the lead, 6 under. So that's a pretty good first day. She's going to play here in about 2 hours. But, looks good. And this is her one tournament for about almost 2 months. Jessica's getting ready to have a baby.
Oh
So
my
her
goodness.
sister
Yeah.
and Nellie's going to take time off. I think they're planning on hanging out with the grandparents. I hope, the grandparents are in decent health, but I know she's going to take some time off, which is, I'm sure she's going to be hitting golf balls the whole time. But you think, man, if you're hitting the ground running in January, I'd want to play tournaments because, you got the Olympics coming up and that's a big deal for her to try and defend that gold medal. So I know she's got a big year planned out. So it's nice. It's nice to see her playing well right now in January.
Yeah, and that's kind of a home course advantage down. Where are they playing down in Bradenton?
Bradenton Country Club, which is she's more of the Pelican. Is it the Pelican Club down there that she plays at? But she has played. She did say, I didn't know because I don't keep up with those courses, but they did a remodel in 2018 there. It's really in top shape, looking great, and they changed so much that even she had to relearn a little bit of the layout. So it's a home course in that she's in her own bed and gets to drive there comfortably every day. So she's taking advantage of that for sure. I think she's going to play well all weekend because of it.
And we'll see that on News Channel 8 this week.
Yeah, we'll be following her around, and we got a lot going on. This week we flipped the switch to Super Sports Sunday.
Super Sports Sunday.
Super Sports Sunday. The Buck season's over, so we're under a rock, man, for 6 months with Bucks, which is great. Now we get to kind of catch our breath a little bit, and we had a great interview lined up Sunday. Amir Abdur-Rahim, the USF basketball coach. Man, you spend 5 minutes in a room with this guy, you're ready to do some work. He's a great guy, and it's really, it times out well because USF is red hot in basketball. They've won 4 in a row, and this Kason Pryor guy that transferred in is kind of eccentric looking, but man, he's got the game to back it up, and he's gone over 20 points 4 straight games, and the trajectory they're on. I mean, they might make noise. They might actually do something in March.
Wow. Can you imagine USF getting to the big dance, getting to the
I
tournament like FAU did last year?
Well, they play FAU coming up. FAU is second in the American right now. USF is third. I think Charlotte's first. But Memphis, who's in the top 20, is down in fifth. USF just knocked them off.
Yeah.
last week. So this isn't the little old American right now. This is some contenders, and
Legit.
maybe might get 2 teams, maybe 3 into the
Wow.
tournament. So
Okay.
pretty soon we're going to start counting. When you start doing that bracketology stuff,
Yeah.
I think USF's going to be in the mix. They're going to be in the conversation. Let's put it that way.
Well, even y'all's Knowles, by the way, in
Yeah.
basketball after a slow
Yeah.
start, they've
They
taken
got
off.
everybody healthy. They got
Yeah,
everybody
they-
healthy and
right.
eligible.
Right,
Well,
and all
when
of a sudden,
they
Yeah, and I
lose
was
to
gonna-
Lipscomb,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, okay, oh God, here we go, and all of a sudden they can't lose.
Yeah.
They got
and
a huge game tomorrow, by the way. Carolina.
Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who they
so
had on the ropes up there.
Yeah,
So they got a great chance to
exactly.
get this dub. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
With everybody back. Yeah. So I'm a little interested in college basketball now. We finally got some teams that are making some noise. So maybe
Absolutely.
March will be a little bit more fun. And the Bolts with a big win last night. I don't know if you caught that.
Oh,
Got out
You
to
know
a
what-
nice
you know-
5-1 lead.
let me tell you, this Nikita Kucherov, Nathan McKinnon
Oof,
points race.
back and forth.
This is entertainment. I haven't seen. I don't. Maybe it's not a fair comparison, but the Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire home run chase. Remember how
Yeah.
that went? All right, so
Yeah.
now that was really on a super high scale because that was mainstream. But this is comparable to hockey fans because you had Kucherov put up a hat trick the other night, takes the
Mhm.
lead. McKinnon responds with a hat trick in a period and a half, regains the lead. Kucherov comes back with a big game last night. I just think it's terrific. I hope the 2 of them just keep going and just put it out of reach. And whoever wins second place will be 2 points behind, and then everybody else will be 15 points back.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's great, but I do think that Kucherov deserves a little more national attention that he's
Good
not
God,
getting.
you think?
I mean, it's just not. You see social media, NHL, whatever.com,
Mhm.
and all this. It's just there's certain faces of the league right now,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you guys are not helping yourselves. I mean, or maybe people are lightning fatigued because they got tired of the team being it. But to not put Nikita Kucherov up there where he is, the casual sports fan doesn't even know he's in the points race.
Well, I think, it
Right
would
now.
help. It would help if Kucherov's personality was as wonderful as his game.
or
And
if
I
he was
don't mean that.
Canadian.
Yeah. If he was Canadian, that would help as well. I
Yeah.
don't think the Russian players get their due. And some of that is by, he's just not, he's a very grumpy interview. He's not,
Yeah.
and that means nothing as far as he plays. He's the most magnificent player in the league, and I love him. But I think part of the problem of him being I don't think anybody in the NHL PR office is going, oh, let's get Nikita Kucherov out here on and do some social media with him. He just,
Right.
he's just not agreeable to that stuff. And once he wins a cup, you see his personality. You're like, oh, this dude could really, he could slay it. But he's all business, man, which is fine. Keep doing what you're doing, bro. Keep doing what you're doing. But I'm saying that's part of it.
I don't want his game impacted, nor do
No.
I want him to just
Leave him alone.
act like he's somebody he's not. He's a worker.
Right.
He's a workhorse.
Exactly.
I will credit him. It wasn't so long ago he didn't speak a lick of English.
Yeah.
And he slowly, and Vazzy's kind of right behind him.
Mhm.
Kuch's English, in my opinion, is very good. He's conversational and is very appreciative in my business, in our industry.
And I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I'm just saying that's who he is. And
I think he's a little bit on the shy side. I'll throw
that
that word
too.
out there when there's cameras around because of that. When you hear guys talk about him in the locker room, he's fun loving. He's a typical teammate and just a good example to follow. But his character doesn't come out, like the other guys do. But I tell you this, man, some of these top hockey guys are boring as hell.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, it's just this big code. Hey, great game tonight. Oh yeah, you got the win. Come on, man. Come on. Put your stars.
Desperation level was great.
Slap
compete
pictures
was
of your
good.
stars on there. Yeah. Compete. I love that. That's my favorite hockey word. A lot of
compete was good. Yeah. All right, Dano. Good stuff as always, my friend. Have a happy Gasparilla. You got any good plans for the big day?
Man, my son's heading down there with his friends, and he's asking me for tips on where to park, and I'm like, buddy, there's only one way to learn.
Yeah.
You just got to get in the
Give him
trenches.
your the golden Dan Lucas spot at News Channel 8 right there in the river. What are we doing? Yeah. What are we doing here?
Yeah, maybe I should do
Come
that.
on.
Maybe I should do that.
Yeah.
I remember I had to
front
work
spot.
Gasparilla. I had to work on Gasparilla a few years back, and I get into the parking garage after the 6 to go out and try and grab something to eat, and there's beer bottles on my car. In the parking
Well, you shouldn't have left them there. You drunk?
Right, exactly. I was just trying to warm up for the show, man.
Hey, who doesn't miss a drunk Bob Height and Gail Gallardo doing the parade? I mean, come on.
Absolutely.
That's the best parade broadcast ever of all time. They were in the spirit. Yeah. Everybody got mad at Gail. I'm like, Bob's been hammered on that thing for 25 years. You get mad at Gail Gallardo? What are we doing here? Come on.
Yeah, Bob was a veteran.
He's just taking cues from the best. What are we doing?
He can handle it.
it. Oh, good stuff. All right, partner. Good to talk to you.
All right, guys.
Lucas there.
Have a good one.
You too. I will not be partaking. I had a little basketball game to coach. By the way, we're 3-1 now. We're on a roll. Yeah.
Who would ever thought J.P. Peterson, youth basketball head coach or coach?
You should see me out there with my whiteboard, man, drawing up the half court traps and 2-1-2 zone defenses.
Are you leaning on Coach Z a little bit? You getting some inspiration?
I need to.
From him?
I have not. You know what? I need to call him. I really do. No, I don't. I know why I have not thought of that. I need to call Coach Z. I don't know though. I'm doing pretty good.
Don't mess with what works. Don't do that. I tell you, the Gasparilla, I have never been to the Gasparilla, by the way. And that might be sacrilegious as a Tampa resident, but...
You have never gone to Gasparilla?
No, you know me. I don't
never?
You know me. I like to stay away from crowds. This is just not my scene. I don't...
Yeah.
Plus, when you go to Gasparilla nowadays, like, the expectation is you have to dress up, like, half naked and wear one of these stupid backpacks on it with, like, a water spout coming in. I mean, that's just not for me. It's very EDM festival-like, I think.
Yeah, it isn't you. I would agree with that.
It's definitely not me. And par on the course on Saturday, I'll be going to the Royal Rumble. I'll be hanging out at the Trop, your favorite place.
Yeah,
and
you just drive right by that thing.
My big thing is just don't let that impact my travels. Over the bridge. That's all I ask, and I have no idea what to expect.
Get on your Google Maps. I think you'll be all right. What time are you going over?
I'm probably going to leave around 4-ish.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm caught off guard right now because we just got a comment, and it's actually from my mom of all people, saying that yes, you have.
Oh, you got outed.
I got outed. Apparently, maybe when I was a kid.
Yeah.
In my adult life, I have never been. I'll put it that way then.
Yeah, it's not I've been there and done it. I've been on floats, been on boats, done every which way can, and I've enjoyed it. I've had fun, gotten a lot of fights with my spouse, which seems like it comes along with the actual parade, like every single time. It's good memories, some bad memories. This year, I'm just going to work, doing my lightning thing, coaching my team in the morning, having a nice day, and then trying to somehow navigate my entryway into Amalie Arena and then get the hell out of there.
I was going to say, the Lightning play that night, right?
Yes, they do. Yeah. So I'm not, a couple of years ago, I tried to thread the needle and go to Gasparilla and then go to work. And that was a bad idea. That was a really, really bad idea. So, because you have a few drinks in the morning and then you stop, around 2:00, or 2-3 o'clock. And now you're like, that post drinking, you're drinking coffee, you're trying to feel better. And by the, halfway through the shift, you're just dead tired. You just want to go home and lay in bed. Yeah. Not a good idea. Not drunk, not hungover, just like that, that post feeling after you drink, you're just like, ugh. And yeah, no good. So I'm just going to work, coach my team, go to work and stay out of the craziness there. All right. So have fun. Now Nick's going to take you home the rest of the way because we got some business to take care of. You have Sandra Golden coming up at 11:30. I'll make sure you jump on with her and she'll give you the perspective from Atlanta because they are not happy with Raheem, by the way. The people, Falcon fans are not happy about just in mass. I think they wanted Mike Vrabel, not Bill Belichick, but they wanted Mike Vrabel and they got Raheem Morris. So we shall see. I think Raheem was a good. Look, Mike Vrabel's got a much better resume.
It's surprising to me that he's like Belichick to me is not as surprising. Vrabel's very surprising that nobody has hired him yet.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I wonder why. I wonder maybe because it's like a Belichick level of control that he wants, and nobody's willing to do that. I don't know. I think he's a really good coach. He gets his teams to play hard and been to a conference championship. It's a pretty good resume, and he's it's not like the game is passing him by, but it's interesting where this league is going. All right, we'll take a break, come back on the other side. Nick will take you home, and we'll be back, or at least I will be back on Monday, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. And I'm sure you'll be talking some wrestling too, right? The Royal Rumble coming up. All right, stay with us.
JP here for the Jeeves Law Group, Jeeves. Call for a free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES. We're local, we're trusted. The law firm brings over 80 years of combined legal experience focusing on clients in Tampa Bay, the state of Florida, and national class action cases. If you're injured, get that free case evaluation, no cost to you. The Jeeves Law Group's focus is on auto, truck, and motorcycle accidents, as well as class action and consumer protection law. Scott Jeeves is a board-certified civil trial lawyer and a certified circuit court mediator practicing in the Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. You hear him on the show all the time. Great guy, big Gator fan, and great for the community. The Jeeves Law Group is a highly skilled team with years of experience that will apply their skills, expertise, and knowledge to assist individuals who have been in an accident with compensation for damages, lost wages, medical expenses, pain and suffering, and property damage. Get that free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES.
JP here for my good friends at Italiano Insurance, and they did it again. Once again, Italiano Insurance stepping up with the best customer service. I was in a bind. My old insurance company, my auto insurance, jacked up my rates, so I called Charity at Italiano Insurance, and she stayed till 9:30 at night until she got my insurance done. And guess what? She searched all these companies for me. I didn't do the work. She did. Saved me $1,000 on my annual premium. $1,000, folks. That's real money. And that's what you get at Italiano Insurance. Great customer service. And here's another note for you, by the way, with hurricane season up. 40% of people in Florida are underinsured. That means if you have something happen during a hurricane and you need replacement costs, you're going to get 40% less than you deserve. Can't let that happen. Call the folks at Italiano Insurance and get them to help you out in both those regards. They will save you money and keep you insured properly. That's 813-877-7799. Great folks in the community, been doing it for over 60 years. Italiano Insurance, 813-877-7799.
Start the new year with a new diamond from the Gold and Diamond Source. It's still engagement season. Where better to get that special ring than the Gold and Diamond Source? Of course, I just got mine there. I'm engaged. You should do the same thing. Let's go. Gold and Diamond Source has the largest selection of engagement rings in the country. A literal jewelry superstore with 30 times the inventory of any normal jeweler. And if you have a loved one or a special person in your life who has a birthday this month, maybe you have an anniversary coming up, you can get 15% off the January birthstone, which is garnet, as in garnet and gold for all your Seminoles. Celebrate that mythical national championship. And it's the Gold and Diamond Source's 40th anniversary. For the past 40 years, they have taken pride in offering only natural diamonds formed over billions of years from the Earth's incredible forces. And gold prices are at an all-time high. Now's your chance to turn your jewelry box into a cash machine. It's the perfect time to trade in your broken or unworn pieces for something new and stunning. It's the Gold and Diamond Source, 3800 Ulmerton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com.
Let's go.
Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show here on a Football Friday. Yes, I'm still calling it a Football Friday. The Bucs might not be playing in a game for the rest of the year, but we still have football this weekend with 2 games to decide who's going to be the Super Bowl matchup. Hard to believe that we've already made it this far. JP, like you heard there, he's going off to tend to some business. So I'm going to close it out here, and I'm going to welcome in my good friend, Mr. Sean Green, who you've seen on this program before with me before, my UCF brethren, and we, of course, host the UCF Charge On podcast as well. So, Sean, thank you for joining me today. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. I'll be seeing you tomorrow.
And I'll be seeing you tomorrow because we're going to the Rumble together. We're skipping the Gasparilla, and we're going to go to the Royal Rumble instead, and I'm very excited for that, as are you. But, we've talked a lot about in this show so far. Obviously, the big news, Dave Canales taking the head coaching job for Carolina. Raheem Morris going to Atlanta. We only have 2 head coaching spots to fill. Washington and Seattle. It feels like Washington is probably just waiting on Ben Johnson at this point.
Yeah.
That seems like the worst kept secret. Seattle, I don't know where they're going. I have no idea. Maybe they're waiting on Monken. Who knows what's going on with Seattle. Vrabel's obviously still out there. Dan Quinn has been mentioned. Jairo Avero, the Carolina defensive coordinator, is out there as well. Maybe Canales retains him. We'll see. But Sean, I think it's very timely to have you on today because you are a very big Patriots fan.
Yeah.
And obviously very familiar with Mr. Bill Belichick. And the idea that in the year 2024, Bill Belichick not being a head coach in the league, which seems like a reality at this point. Man, I think we disagree a little bit on Bill's place in the NFL today. So give me your initial thoughts on that of Bill Belichick potentially not being a head coach in 2024.
It's going to be so weird. I mean, I automatically assumed he was going to get a job. Like there was 8 jobs out there where you just assumed he's getting one of them. Like a team's not going to pass up the greatest coach of all time when you have a head coach opening. Now, it shocked me last night. I texted you right when Raheem Morris got the job, and I'm like, okay, we kind of knew that Atlanta was just interviewing a bunch of people. They had to have the most head coaching interviews this cycle. I mean, they interviewed like 14 guys. So it wasn't like a complete shocker. I think what it boils down to is if you're hiring Bill, you're hiring all of his buddies. You're bringing in your entire new staff. Whoever's making the decisions for personnel now would no longer be making the decisions. It will be Bill Belichick. So I think for Arthur Blank and a lot of these teams, you're not just hiring Bill the coach, which I think if it's just Bill the coach, he would be a head coach in the National Football League. You're hiring Bill to completely retool your franchise for at least the next 3 years. So I think if I'm Arthur Blank, and we'll find out at 11:30, I am sure Arthur Blank wanted Bill Belichick, but everybody around Arthur Blank was probably like, we don't want him. We're good. So he listened to his people, but it's going to feel so weird next year.
Yeah, it absolutely will. But I said this earlier. It's like, I know Atlanta fans, it sounds like from what we're seeing are pretty disappointed in the hire because they cast a wide net and they interviewed 14 candidates, I believe. And there was all this smoke around Belichick. And I get it. He's the big name. For everyone's opinion, he's probably the greatest head coach of all time. None of that changes, by the way. None of that changes. But in 2024, just the idea of getting the band back together. Because like you said, it's not just Belichick. Who's Belichick's OC going to be? Which is probably the most important thing if he's the head coach at this point.
McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels. I mean, if you're an ownership group or a front office, you saw what happened in Las Vegas this year. Yeah. And listen, that's not the only that's not the lasting sort of impact that McDaniels is going to leave on the NFL is what happened in Las Vegas. Obviously, a lot of success in New England under that structure, Tom Brady, etc. But Las Vegas was an absolute mess for the 2 years that McDaniels was running the show. And you see how pretty open the Raiders players were whenever he was let go, and then Antonio Pierce gets that job, then it seemed like everything kind of flipped for the Raiders, and obviously Pierce ends up getting the permanent job. I just don't like the idea of, just like I said, getting the band back together and bringing in McDaniels and a lot of his guys. I'm sure his son, Steve Belichick, would come with him, and it'd be just like Patriots South. I don't know. Belichick's 72 years old. I don't think there's been a head coach that's coached past that before. I think Pete Carroll would have been the first one, if I'm not mistaken, this year. And obviously Seattle made the decision for him, essentially. At least that's the way I feel that went down. That, no, you're not going to be the head coach anymore. And Bill, too, if he's going to be running the show as the GM as well, what has Bill Belichick done? Forget the past decade, but let's just zero in on the last 5 years because the league changes so much. What great moves has he made as a GM? I mean, even a simple one last year where New England was so devoid of any talent on the offensive side of the ball, save for Ramondre Stevenson and Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers was a free agent. Now, is Jacoby Myers a 1? No. He is a great 2. I think most teams would love to have him as a 2. He signed, 3 years, $33 million in Las Vegas. The Patriots didn't want to sign him, and instead Bill goes and signs Juju Smith-Schuster.
To the same deal.
Same exact contract. Same exact contract in length and money and everything. And then we find out after that Juju's got chronic knee issues, and who knows how much longer he's going to play in the NFL. He put up 200-something receiving yards.
He won't be on the roster next year.
Exactly. It's just a simple move like that makes you lose confidence in Bill Belichick in a GM role. I can't recall the last time he drafted a Pro Bowler on the offensive side of the ball.
Okay.
I guess, does Mac count? I guess.
He counts.
Sure.
But you could also, again, if we're talking about Bill, we talked bad about Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels is an offensive coordinator. Air Cecil put it in the chat. He is an elite offensive coordinator. If you ask any team around the league, would you want Josh McDaniels as your offensive coordinator? Probably 26 out of the 32 teams would say, if we had an opening, we would call Josh McDaniels. Now, the problem has been at both head coaching spots, he's left it way worse than he found it. And he tried to, again, implement a Patriot Bill Belichick way at both spots. I think the Patriots are now going to hire Josh McDaniels because there's so many openings for offensive coordinator. But to your point, Bill has not been able to draft offensive talent for years. Defensive talent, he can get you a Kyle Duggar in the second round where nobody knows who that guy is, and now he's going to get paid big bucks. He's been able to find defensive talent. Again, Christian Gonzalez, first round corner, drafted him. Everybody's like, that's going to be the steal, and he was playing good until injury. So I think Bill can spot talent. The problem is, offensively, for his entire career, when you think about it, he has not been able to really draft well on the offensive side of the ball. You look at, Julian Edelman and Gronk. Okay, Julian Edelman was a 7th round quarterback that didn't get playing time for 5 years because of Wes Welker. So, it sucks, but at the end of the day, he's kind of reaped his own bed because if he went to Atlanta and said, I will just coach the team, you hire whatever GM you want, I'll just coach the team, I'll get this team ready to go, I want to have input, but whatever, he'd be a coach. He would be the Atlanta Falcons head coach. And I want to say this, Raheem Morris does deserve a job. He has worked his way all the way back up. I get Atlanta fans being not as enthused because of all the big names they interviewed. Raheem Morris has really got his name back up. Remember how low Raheem Morris's name was. For him, through the years, just to work his way up, I think he's going to work in Atlanta. It just, I understand for Falcons fans, when Mike Vrabel's sitting there, how it could be a disappointing hire.
That's a good way to put it. I do like the Raheem hire, probably more than most do. Certainly more than the Atlanta fan base, and maybe that's part of is he was with the Bucs, and it didn't go so well. But I don't think he was really given a fair shot. The Bucs didn't give him anything. Like JP mentioned it, and obviously he was covering the team at the time. The Bucs didn't really give him any money to spend on free agents. He was there because he was cheap. And even then, he had a year where he went 10-6 with Josh Freeman as his quarterback and a bunch of rookies everywhere. But again, it's been 13 years, and you don't see too many head coaches go that long in between getting jobs. I think there's only been 5 that have ever gone 10 years or longer between head coaching jobs. But he's so well respected around the league, and I think that means something. I saw so many players and former players yesterday, whether it was Richard Sherman, whether it was Jalen Ramsey, there was others as well that spoke so open about him as a man and as a coach. Mike Tomlin said, I think last year, that Raheem was the best coach in the NFL that wasn't part of the top 32 as head coaches, and deserved that shot. So, yeah, I will stick by what I said. I think Atlanta is still going to be better off with Raheem Morris because I'm expecting, and I think there's already been smoke around this, that he's going to bring in Zach Robinson as his OC. And I know a lot of Bucs fans have mentioned his name today as somebody that the Bucs should go after as an OC. And yeah, that'd be great. But he's already got the relationship with Raheem Morris being together in LA.
Yeah. First of all,
tied to
everybody
the
wants
hip.
Zach Robinson.
Right,
Everybody's in the NFL
everybody's going to
Zach
want that
Robinson.
guy, but Raheem Morris, I think, has the he's
Upper
in the
hand.
lead by far to get that dude. So it's going to be interesting. And of course, I've been trying to look at updates here throughout the show because this is all happening live. If the Bucs, it seems like so far, from what I've seen, the two names that they are interviewing to this moment is Kellen Moore and Brian Johnson, which we already said for the Bucs job. I think I already said it in the first hour. I'm going to pass on Brian Johnson pretty easily. That collapse in Philly stinks. It smells bad.
I don't blame it on him, though. That's the thing. You remember, he was getting head coaching. Like, people were assuming he would have been a head coach in 2 years. So I don't necessarily think the offense was all his fault. I think there's just a lot of problems there with Sirianni. But Eric Cecil just putting McDaniels as OC in Tampa would maximize Rashad's potential as a pass catcher, and likely Godwin. I don't think he'll go to Tampa. That's the thing. I think McDaniels, the only job he would have taken outside of New England was wherever Bill went. Now that Bill doesn't get a job. Now, granted, that's if nobody in the NFL wants to hire McDaniels. Nobody. The only team right now, like talent-wise, before all this, every team would want him. And everybody would still agree he's one of the best offensive coordinators in the league. But I think times have changed. McDaniels hasn't changed his ways. He still runs the Tom Brady offense, when I think a lot of these coordinators, like the Zach Robinsons, which he hasn't called plays, but a lot of the coordinators that are getting hired are new NFL guys. Like, again, mobile quarterback, know how to get, receivers in space. So they'll probably, Tampa would need to hire somebody quick because there's a lot of coordinator openings right now.
Yeah.
And if you want one, you got to get one.
Yeah, but we were saying too, the smartest play here ultimately, because we're assuming Baker is going to be back. Now, all it takes is one team to just severely outbid the Bucs, where they just can't make it work. And who knows, that might happen. But I think it's very clear that Baker wants to return to the Bucs. We'll see what the contract looks like, but I'd put it pretty much at a 90% shot or more right now that he's going to be your quarterback next year and at least a year or two after that, depending on the length of the contract. Baker hasn't had stability his entire career. He's worked with like 8 head coaches and probably more offensive coordinators added on to that as well. And I felt like Dave Canales got every last bit just about of Baker Mayfield's talent out. And you saw what the results were. Yeah. And Thad Lewis is sitting on this staff right now, and he was originally a BA guy. Obviously, Bowles liked him enough that he kept him on his staff when he took over as the head coach. And from the way I had understood it, I think that Thad had started to get a little bit more involved in the offense at the end of the season, and that he was giving suggestions to Canales as well. He might have even called a few plays or stuff like that. So for a continuity standpoint, Thad Lewis makes a lot of sense, but I do think that there's so many great or I shouldn't say great, but quality offensive coordinators that are out there, and a lot of other guys who are waiting in the wings to call plays as well, that I think you have to conduct a search at least, at the very minimum. And obviously the Bucs are doing that.
100%. New England's doing the same thing with the defensive coordinator. They're conducting a search, but we also have the guy on the staff that's most likely going to be it. So somebody said Kellen Moore. If I'm the Bucs, I'm staying as far away from Kellen Moore as I could throw him. Dak was better without him. So
Well, the thing with Kellen Moore, too, is he loves to just throw the ball all over the yard. Todd Bowles, that wasn't really the messaging. And even Canales, when he was here, said he was going to be stubborn about the run. Now, towards the end of the year, and you saw it in the playoff game against Detroit, even when the run game was working, they became pretty pass happy because that was clearly their best way of winning because the run game was so bad the majority of the year. So that would be such a difference in philosophy if Kellen Moore ended up being the guy. But I think, whatever is going to be the best option to get the best out of Baker Mayfield, I think is where you have to go. And that's where Thad Lewis, I think, comes into play, assuming he's just going to build off of what Canales built. Obviously, he's a first-time play caller. Well, Canales was also a first-time play caller, and they took that risk. It worked out, and now he's a head coach somewhere else. So
yeah, but Zach Robinson, like people are like, oh, I want Zach Robinson. He would be a full first-time play caller. So it's like a lot of these young up-and-coming guys,
and everybody had to do it at some point. Like
yeah,
even McVay, when he became the head coach in 2017, I think, what is he, 33 years old, 32 years old? Everybody probably said, oh my goodness, he's way too young. Well, Sean McVay's probably the best head coach in the league now. I mean, people probably said the same thing.
He's completely changed the way this league hires people now. Like, Bill Belichick is not a coach partially because of McVay. Like, if you just look back at all the hires the last couple of years, teams are going younger. Teams are wanting the innovative offensive coordinators to change how they run offense. That's just how the league's going now. They want guys that are really going to innovate their offense. So it's not shocking at all.
Well, that's why I said, like, you look at the head coaching hires so far, the only guy that's over 50 in that equation is Jim Harbaugh. And I mean, clearly Jim Harbaugh walks back into the NFL, and for my money, he's a top 5 head coach already. Like, I know it's been a decade since he's been in the NFL, but I mean, just follow the pattern. Everywhere that guy goes, he wins.
And can I say this? I know this is kind of a little off topic, but I know a lot of people have criticized the way that the Rooney Rule has been implemented in the NFL the last couple of years. Because people are like, oh, these teams already know who they want to hire. I'll be honest, like when you look at a team like the Falcons, right? Or even the Patriots, right? This is why that rule was implemented. This is like a lot of minority hires were hired in this cycle. And partially, like, again, no one would have thought Raheem Morris would get the Atlanta job. But guess what? He probably had a hell of an interview, had a better plan than Bill Belichick or Vrabel, and he gets the job. So this is only proving what the NFL is doing is working in those instances.
Yeah, I think it was 4 minority hires so far, including Canales, because Canales has a Mexican heritage in him as well. So it's 4 minority hires. Yeah, in the interview process you mentioned, I think that's probably the biggest reason why Dave Canales is sitting here today as a head coach. I mean, it's no surprise like that you hear stuff like, oh, Dave Canales interviewed well. Well, of course he did. If you watch this guy at the podium, you can clearly hear it when he talks. Like, of course this guy's going to kill an interview. I'm sure he killed the interview last year with the Bucs, and that was a big reason. He inspires confidence. Like, even before he had called a play in the NFL last year, we listened to the first 2 press conferences of Dave Canales, and it's like, you know, I don't know what he's going to be like, but he makes me believe that he's going to be something. And, you know, that's a big part of it. And whereas you hear other stories in recent years, like Bieniemy, I'll just bring him up. Like, nobody knows the curious case of why he couldn't get a head coaching job for years when he was literally under Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and all that. And you would hear things like, oh, he doesn't interview well and stuff like that. Like, that part of it does matter.
Yeah.
And now Bieniemy, like, I don't know if he interviewed for any head coaching jobs. Like, things change so quickly in the NFL.
Look at Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore, if you asked anybody in the NFL when he was with Dallas if he'd be a head coach in a year, everybody would have said, absolutely, he's going to be a head coach. And after one bad year, he has fallen from grace. Like, now he's like just searching for an OC job, unemployed. Like, in the NFL, things go so quick. Like, 1 minute, Baker Mayfield, everybody's like, oh, he's going to be our quarterback for the next 3 years. Next year, he's awful. We need to get rid of him. So it's like it's a year-by-year basis in the NFL. Anybody can be looking for a head coaching job 1 year and then unemployed the next. That's the NFL, though. That's how it is.
It's very, very fascinating. And I love it because, you know, this is kind of the downtime. We only got 3 games left this year and we still have so much news coming out. And then, you know, we got the Senior Bowl coming out too. I love the Senior Bowl, kind of the hub where like all the coaches and GMs kind of meet up for one weekend in Mobile. So that's going to be fun as well. And then the NFL draft's going to be here before you know it. So
I need it to be here before I know it.
Oh, I know. You're already in draft mode. You've been in draft mode for a long time.
I've been in draft mode since October, Nick. I've been in it for a while.
Yeah. It's definitely maybe less exciting that you're picking like the Bucs are picking 26, but still I will take it because, you know, great season and everything. Whereas, you know, your Patriots are picking 3 and complete reset.
Get the third best quarterback according to people. So yeah.
All right, let's take a break here. And when we come back, Sandra Golden is going to join us from Atlanta, 92.9 The Game's own. How is the Raheem Morris hire landing up there in Atlanta? What we hear, not so good. We're going to get the scoop from Sandra Golden when we return. As always, brought to you by the Jeeves Law Group, Bay Area Monarch Medical Center, Italiano Insurance, Golden Diamond Source, the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group, American Mortgage Services, and Synovus Bank. Back in 3. Stay with us here on a Football Friday of the J.P. Peterson Show.
JP here for the Jeeves Law Group, Jeeves. Call for a free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES. We're local, we're trusted. The law firm brings over 80 years of combined legal experience focusing on clients in Tampa Bay, the state of Florida, and national class action cases. If you're injured, get that free case evaluation, no cost to you. The Jeeves Law Group's focus is on auto, truck, and motorcycle accidents, as well as class action and consumer protection law. Scott Jeeves is a board-certified civil trial lawyer and a certified circuit court mediator practicing in the Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. You hear him on the show all the time. Great guy, big Gator fan, and great for the community. The Jeeves Law Group is a highly skilled team with years of experience that will apply their skills, expertise, and knowledge to assist individuals who have been in an accident with compensation for damages, lost wages, medical expenses, pain and suffering, and property damage. Get that free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES.
JP here for the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Geddes. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA two-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or trying to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Geddes and the Geddes Gordon Group because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to geddesgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com or call 813-485-6808.
JP here for my good friends at Italiano Insurance, and they did it again. Once again, Italiano Insurance stepping up with the best customer service. I was in a bind. My old insurance company, my auto insurance, jacked up my rates, so I called Charity at Italiano Insurance, and she stayed till 9:30 at night until she got my insurance done. And guess what? She searched all these companies for me. I didn't do the work. She did. Saved me $1,000 on my annual premium. $1,000, folks. That's real money. And that's what you get at Italiano Insurance. Great customer service. And here's another note for you, by the way, with hurricane season up. 40% of people in Florida are underinsured. That means if you have something happen during a hurricane and you need replacement costs, you're going to get 40% less than you deserve. Can't let that happen. Call the folks at Italiano Insurance and get them to help you out in both those regards. They will save you money and keep you insured properly. That's 813-877-7799. Great folks in the community, been doing it for over 60 years. Italiano Insurance, 813-877-7799.
Let's go.
Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the J.P. Peterson Show here on a Football Friday. And the NFC South is at the head of all the news that took place yesterday on just a random Thursday in January, but so much news going on. 2 head coaching vacancies filled. Dave Canales, one of them, leaving the Bucs to go coach the Panthers. But the other one, another big one, the Atlanta Falcons replacing Arthur Smith with former Buccaneers head coach and Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris. So we're going to go out now to Atlanta with Sandra Golden of 92.9 The Game. Sandra, how you doing this morning? And just take us through the hiring yesterday of Raheem Morris and how that's landing up there in Atlanta.
Wow. Well, the fans do a complete freak out, as you well know.
Of
The
course.
Bill Belichick rumor, I think, was a little scarier, and what he was going to bring as this certainly icon heading in here, but also, how his coaching style, and in the words of Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network, came on this morning with us and said he just wasn't sure if his coaching style, managerial style, lands with this culture these days. And I thought that was such a great point. So, long answer to your short question, fans are not thrilled, but we're not thrilled for a lot of reasons.
Sandra, obviously people were, again, you mentioned Bill Belichick. A lot of people assume that Arthur Blank wanted Bill, but everybody in the staff was more so wanting somebody else. Do you think if Bill Belichick wanted to be just the coach and not necessarily in the front office role, that he would be the coach today? Or do you think Raheem Morris just killed the interview and got the job over guys like Bill or Mike Vrabel?
Okay, both things can be true. So insiders, that sources we believe in 100%, the job was never offered to Bill Belichick. The long of the short is Arthur Blank, during the season, we're hearing around week 10, it was after the Falcons lost back-to-back games to the Vikings and then to the Cardinals, and then you had a bye week, if you remember that, which you probably don't, so God bless you. Nonetheless, there was already whispers up in New England that he was going to be available. So that's when Arthur Blank was like, I'm going to go big game hunting. I'm going to get the Belichick. And then, so he kind of did that on his own. And then he started to listen to the room where it happened. And that's where the whispers got louder of, I don't know if this is going to work with this culture of player, and it's only a short-term deal. The other part of it is Raheem was in the building and was, the assistant head coach under Dan Quinn. He's coached on both sides of the ball. He was a star, and everybody loved him. So both things were true. But when it came down to it, I believe in that boardroom with Arthur Blank that he didn't have the room support, and he went with Raheem Morris.
Do you kind of feel, this is how I kind of feel about this whole thing, is that, Belichick's the big name, and he's the greatest head coach of all time. But, moving forward, Raheem Morris has had the most, and I know not as a head coach necessarily, but he's had the most recent success. Clearly, a lot of players, most of the players in the league love this guy. A lot of the best head coaches in the league have vouched for him to be a head coach. He's done it before, and I think 14 years later now that it feels like he probably would excel more at the CEO type of skill that he did not have when he was in Tampa Bay the first time. Is it really, Is it really just like in regards to like fan reaction not being happy? Is it because it feels like they might have been floated, the greatest head coach of all time, and that comes with a lot, and then you get Raheem and it just feels underwhelming?
Yeah, but I got to tell you, the response to Bill Belichick was awful here. It was it was polarizing, and there wasn't really a lot of people saying, bring Belichick in. And I know that sounds crazy, but, our fan base here, I truly believe it feels duped from these last couple of regimes, letting Dan Quinn go and Arthur Smith and the talent that they got this year, and Arthur Blank spending, $123 million on the offseason. We felt duped at how bad it crashed and burned with Arthur Smith. I do think they were not going to hire another assistant coach. So at least Raheem has the experience of the head coaching, albeit it was not great stats. What was it, 17-31 with you guys with Tampa? Also didn't have a quarterback. Okay, so Josh Freeman, with all due, had Josh Freeman down there. So we did a deep dive. And, the Belichick did not land here. I don't know how it was nationally. It was a big story. We might have had a couple of more Sunday night games. But listen, I don't know that fans were thrilled. I'm going to say the opposite. They were not thrilled with Bill Belichick coming here.
So who was the guy that the pulse in Atlanta? Who was the guy that I think most Atlanta fans wanted? Was it Mike Vrabel when he became available? I know that's a name that a lot of people are. Okay, Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh, and then Mike Vrabel. But Jim Harbaugh, now reports is that Harbaugh was very interested in Atlanta, and that's why the Chargers didn't let him out of the building that night. Like, there was a lot of upside here in Atlanta, and the first interview went very, very well. So then that's off the table, and now, the dominoes started to fall. Now you have 3 openings, and Atlanta was one of them, and they could not be told again that they're not the date to the prom.
And I think a big reason why perhaps Harbaugh's in Los Angeles today is, a head coach is typically only as good as who he's got playing quarterback for him.
Yeah.
And, we know that that's a big issue in Atlanta right now, and that's kind of where I'm going now. I mean, we still got to get to free agency and the draft to figure this out. But Atlanta, I think, holding the number eight pick for the third consecutive season kind of feels like no man's land a little bit in terms of landing a quarterback in the draft, because the top three, who seem to be in their own tier, are probably going to be gone before that. Do you see them maybe forcing that at 8 for the next best guy, or potentially dipping into free agency, say like Kirk Cousins is a guy who's probably the top quarterback available?
I think both things can happen. I wouldn't be surprised if they got Kirk on a short-term deal, albeit $40 million worth, but also to move up to even possibly a 5 or 6, where you're looking at Michael Penix or, God knows, Bo Nix. So, Thomas Dimitroff, the former GM, joined us this morning and was, he owns a company now that does data, literally coaches' involvement, this kid. I mean, it's really quite fascinating. 2 little nuggets I thought were the most interesting on Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris is ranked as a top 5 evaluator of talent and then making them better than they are. So he's done the numbers, and that's for not just assistant coaches or coordinators. That is every person in the building and how they make an impact on a player. He's in the top 5 in the NFL. That's fascinating to me, and what he can do. And the roster is trending up in Atlanta. Like I said, I think we're feeling duped with all that, with the Bijans, with the Drake Londons. We don't have a quarterback. So would I be surprised if all the eggs in the basket go right into a quarterback? If they moved up to 3, I wouldn't be surprised. And that's the honest to God truth, to go get Jaden Daniels.
Sandra, what's the have you heard anything in regards to offensive coordinator? I know it's only been a day since Raheem Morris is hired. Is Zach Robinson kind of the top of the board there?
Yeah, I think Zach Robinson comes, and he's another one. So Les Snead, and had a great conversation at length with our my co-host Fake Shapiro, and I think that
what's going on. I'm moving over to college football now because obviously y'all are very close to what's going on at the University of Georgia. Nick Saban retiring from the NFL, so it looks like we're in a reality, or from the NFL, my goodness, from college football. So it looks like we're in a reality where there's no Belichick and no Nick Saban. I think those guys should start a podcast, but that's a separate story.
I would listen for sure.
Absolutely, that'd be awesome. But to Saban retiring, you mentioned the fan outrage about the Falcons, but I have to think, if you're a Georgia Bulldog fan, my goodness, you couldn't be any more happier that Nick Saban is finally out the door in Bama.
Yeah, it's happy days are here again in Georgia. Listen, I could argue that Georgia Kirby had already kind of was a 1A and 1B. Is that disrespectful to Saban? I don't mean to be, but I mean, Kirby has the Georgia Bulldogs right where he wants them. They are king of the hill for sure. But yeah, Saban and Belichick, you're right. That is something.
Yeah, and it's very, because they came into the league, I think they were both at the Naval Academy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
at the time. Right. So definitely a changing of the guard. But Sandra, thank you so much for joining us this morning and giving us that insight. Have a great one, and we will see you down the line.
Awesome. Thank you. And you guys like Raheem, right? The Buccaneers, I was talking with JP this morning. Raheem's a big favorite, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love Raheem. I think 13 years is overdue. And, of course, it sucks that it's like he's in the same division. Same thing with Canales, obviously, but definitely going to be rooting for those two guys.
Awesome. Well, you have a wonderful weekend. I really appreciate you having me on.
All right. Thank you, Sandra. You as well.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, Sandra Golden there from 92.9 The Game in Atlanta. Really good stuff there on the inside of how this took place, Sean. It sounds like they weren't going to be thrilled with Belichick either.
I'm surprised that as an owner, usually, again, you see it in Carolina, right? And I guess that's a heightened version. But usually when the owner wants somebody, he gets what he wants. So I find it very I think it's good for Atlanta that the owner listens to the people that he hires and not just goes with what he wants. I think that's why Atlanta has been successful at times. They just need to get the top guy right and then the quarterback, and they've got a great roster. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we will see how it goes. But in the meantime, like I said, we still have 2 games this weekend. We haven't really dived into those much this week, but we'll do that now. Lions and 49ers, and then obviously the big one, the Ravens, or they're both big ones, but the Ravens and the Chiefs. We'll start Lions and 49ers. Obviously, the Bucs got to play that Lions team last week. Played them tough. The Lions going on the road this time after having two of the most insane atmospheres for a playoff game I have ever seen. So that's going to be an interesting storyline. My gut tells me I'm sticking with, like I said this probably midway through the season, and I shouldn't probably waver from it, that Baltimore and San Francisco were the class of the NFL all year. We'll get to Baltimore, Kansas City in a second, but San Francisco, when they have their full complement of guys, and I guess that's the big question in this one, will they have Deebo Samuel or not? I still do kind of lean San Francisco a little bit, Sean. Detroit's secondary just continues to scare me. It really does. You look at some of the yardage they've allowed to top receivers really over the last 8-9 weeks. You saw what Puka Nacua did to them. We saw what Mike Evans did to them. Even if Deebo doesn't play, San Francisco still can put out Brandon Ayuk. They can put out George Kittle. Purdy, for all the faults and the ridiculous narratives that are around him this week, he can sling it. I have no problem with that. I'm leaning San Francisco in this one, just by a hair, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'm really pushing for Detroit. I just really, really want Detroit in the Super Bowl. I think it's what America wants.
Of course.
But no, San Francisco's the best team in the NFL, in my opinion. Even without Deebo, I do think just offensively, like you said, Detroit's secondary is a little suspect. I do think Detroit can make some noise with that front seven. I do think they might be able to get some pressure on Brock Purdy because, again, that's kind of what Detroit has been doing all year. If you can get a little bit of pressure, I think Detroit can win this game. I think both teams are pretty, obviously San Francisco has a little bit better of a roster, but pretty evenly matched. So I think anything can happen on Sunday. So I'm pulling feet for Detroit, but I agree with you about the 49ers.
Yeah, I do think, I mentioned Detroit's secondary is their big weakness, but San Francisco's weakness is also their secondary.
Yep.
I mean, they have some issues to iron out back there. So I'm leaning a high scoring affair in this one, to be honest with you. But San Francisco, they just, I guess it's because I know everybody wants to see Detroit win, and I guess maybe part of me wants that story as well. But I guess I've been leading the Brock Purdy the brigade over here because, like I said in my opening, I think the narratives surrounding this guy and how outstanding his story is, that seems to be taking a back seat here. And I just, for the life of me, can't figure it out why we can't celebrate the fact that that guy who, if he would just became a backup quarterback in the league, that would have been a success story. But now he's leading a team to the second straight conference championship. And listen, it's not just him. I know that. But every great quarterback has great weapons around him. But it just seems like he's the only one that gets, like, the blame when it doesn't look, as good as it probably could be, like how it was against Green Bay. But then he comes back and he gives you that game-winning drive where he was awesome. The throw to Ayuk, the throw to Jawan Jennings over the middle of the field, like, those were big-time throws. And so I didn't care what happened the 55 minutes before that.
It's a lose-lose situation. Either he plays out of his mind and it's, he has basically the best player at every position on his team, right, or he plays awful and it's he's holding that team back. He's the reason. So It's a lose-lose, and he's going to get that for years.
Right. So this guy literally has to win a Super Bowl, essentially, just to completely put it into it, I guess. Yep. So that story in itself, I'm also pushing for. And San Francisco's just been at this for years. They've been so close. They've been to a Super Bowl. This is the best team thus far that they've been able to put together. And a lot of that is because of the fact that they are able to get away with paying Brock Purdy, like, it's not even $1 million, I don't even think. Like, nope. That's part of the reason why they have such a stacked roster, which I think is a feather in the cap of how good Brock Purdy is. He's helped his own team's cause there of getting all these star players. So, but Detroit's definitely going to, Jared Goff has, if you're not a Jared Goff believer at this point, you're just not watching the games. He's been awesome. Amon-Ra St. Brown, still don't think he gets enough respect for how good of a receiver he is in this league. And then those rookies, Gibbs, Laporta, Branch, the offensive line, obviously. They fought their tail off against the Bucs, even when, two-fifths of them were, like, completely injured, Ragnow and Jonah Jackson. So, definitely going to be a good one there. Flipping over to the AFC, Chiefs and Ravens. Ravens got this one at home. The Chiefs basically shut up everybody who thought that going on the road in the playoffs was going to be a concern. And I'm not shocked whatsoever that the Chiefs have decided to start looking like the Chiefs when the postseason is here, Sean. It's just what they do, and everybody's, it seems everybody's just waiting on Baltimore to win this game, but I don't think Kansas City's going to go away easily.
I think Kansas City wins this game. I'm going out and saying it. I like, just like you said, you have a gut. I have a gut feeling strong that Kansas City's going to win this game. I think Baltimore's the better roster. I think they're playing better. I think they've just had a much better season as a team throughout the year where they didn't really take any dips. But there's just something like that win in Buffalo. Granted, the Bills are just frauds every year, so it's not a shock to me. I was the least shocked person in the country last week, but I think Kansas City has a solid chance to go into Baltimore and beat the Ravens.
Yeah, two really good defenses in this one. Like, on paper, you could see this being, even with the quarterback position being, the elite of the elite that you can get in the league, you can see this being a little bit of a defensive struggle, and it's going to be interesting. I think Baltimore has proven if it gets to that point, they can muck up a game. They really can. And they find ways to win. I mean, we got two of the all-time head coaches right here. Both are going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. Two elite quarterbacks, two really good defenses. I think Mark Andrews, I saw, is going to play in this game as well.
Yep.
For Baltimore, so that's going to be a big plus for them. What's interesting about Lamar and, the subject around him right now and how great he's been, and he's obviously most likely going to be the MVP of the league. I saw this morning. Mina Kimes put this up, and this is going to be interesting. For all the people that think that Lamar Jackson can't throw, because those people still exist, and there will be people that will still tell you during every preview game that you're doing it for the Ravens, just make Lamar throw. Just make Lamar throw. So fascinating. Everybody loves to say that. And Mina Kimes put this up this morning. Lamar Jackson against a standard four-man rush, number one in QBR in the league. Lamar Jackson against a four-man rush that gets pressure, he's also number one in QBR in the league. So, again, keep telling me that we just got to make Lamar Jackson throw. And you know what's going to happen? The Ravens are just going to keep winning games because that's not the recipe to beat them. And truthfully, I don't know what is the recipe. I think Kansas City, with their experience and the fact that they're looking like Kansas City again, I'm going to give them a shot no matter what. I am not going to doubt Patrick Mahomes one bit. But how do you stop Lamar Jackson is going to be the big thing because, again, if you let him stand back there in the pocket, he's the number one quarterback in the league against a four-man rush. And if you blitz, well, guess what he's going to do? He's going to move around a little bit, and all it takes is one play for Lamar Jackson to break out one of those big runs, and he's gone. I mean, this is a fascinating matchup against two quarterbacks who are probably the two hardest guys to deal with in the entire league.
I'm going to guess that Steve Spagnuolo, watching many Steve Spagnuolo defenses over the years, he's going to throw a lot of blitzes. And I think Kansas City does have the linebackers to keep up with Lamar's speed. But I think people don't give Lamar credit for his passing ability because they look at his yards per game and they're like, oh, like last week, he only threw for 158 yards or something. It's because they don't need to. They are a run-first team. They can pass if they want to. So it's going to be a chess match for sure. It's going to be, I think it's like a 23-20 type of game, like you mentioned. So it should be interesting.
Yeah, I think whatever happens in these games, this was the best case scenario for the NFL.
100%.
We love some of these Cinderella stories. I don't even think Detroit's a Cinderella story. We don't even have to even call them that. Detroit's a damn good football team.
But it's a Cinderella story because of the history of the last. Yeah, but nobody's. Yeah.
But that's a damn good football team.
Oh, 100%. Nobody's good for you.
Right. And if they get to the Super Bowl, it's because they are, like I said, a damn good football team. So I think in general, now necessarily were the Chiefs the best team, one of the best teams in the AFC this year in the regular season?
No.
Probably not. But this is still Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce. There's still star power there. I mean, obviously Taylor Swift is involved in that too. And then I do think that the two best teams in the regular season in the NFC were San Francisco and Detroit. You can make the argument for Dallas all you want, but Dallas didn't beat any good teams. The only good team they beat was Detroit, I guess, but that was off a technicality because of an awful call. So I do think that those were the two best teams in the NFC, and they're here. And then you have the best team all year long in Baltimore, and then the reigning champs in Kansas City opposite of them. I think it's the best case scenario for the NFL.
100%. Think about it. It's a win-win for the NFL because you have your villain, Kansas City. So God forbid they make it to the Super Bowl. Everybody's going to be rooting against them. Detroit, you have your hero. Everybody in America wants Detroit to win. And then if both of them lose this weekend, okay, what are you left with? Baltimore and the 49ers, 2 number 1 seeds, the 2 best teams in the NFL all year. It's going to be split down the line for America. So you're getting a good matchup regardless of who wins this weekend.
Yep. It's going to be great. All right, we got like 5 minutes left here. I'm trying to see if we've hit everything that we needed to. Pretty much covered all the NFL news. I'm trying to see if the Bucs are interviewing anybody else at this moment.
I was going to say we could talk Royal Rumble coming to Tampa.
Oh, here you go. A minute ago. Very timely right here.
There you go.
Ian Rappaport reporting Zach Robinson is being requested to interview for the vacant Bucs OC job. So there you go. He's also got interest from the Saints, Steelers, Patriots, and Raiders, among other. And Rappaport says a potential reunion with Baker Mayfield. And I'm not really familiar. Yeah, I guess so. They had the 4-game stint together in Los Angeles. So.
I don't want fans to get their hopes up. Do not get your hopes up. He's interviewed for basically every OC job. He was in New England last week. He's going probably to Atlanta. So don't get your hopes up. And if he does come to Tampa, I mean, that's probably one of the best OC hires this cycle because he's been number 1 or 2 on basically every team's. Like Shane Waldron was number 1 on every board from what I've heard. And then Zach Robinson was easily 2 or 3 or 1 in some cases. So if you can get him in the building, that's great.
Shane Waldron being number 1 on a lot of people's boards is interesting to me.
Called plays, young, worked under top offensive minds. I think most of these guys think about it, like Zach Robinson has never called plays. So people haven't got a chance to see what he could do in the NFL. Shane Waldron, he's called plays and he's young.
True.
And he runs one of those newer offenses. So that's why think about it. They hired him over like a Cliff Kingsbury, who was a head coach. So if that tells you anything. It tells you he was high on people's board. Yeah. Zach Robinson's close number 2.
Yeah, and I do feel like if Waldron going to Chicago, I mean, that pretty much tells me that they're going after Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
with that number 1 pick, in my opinion.
And I don't like Caleb Williams.
It's funny, like the NFL draft evaluators love Caleb Williams, and a lot of like the fans, if you were to like get a pulse of the fans, like it feels, and we just don't see it. Like, and it's not like I'm not saying he can't be a good NFL quarterback. It just doesn't scream like, oh, generational, like has been hyped up to me.
I think Trevor Lawrence was better. I think talent-wise, I can see it, but the problem is personality-wise, I do not see him as a leader of a bunch of men. I see him as a hell of a quarterback. I think he can do really good in year 1.
Yeah, he's a hell of a talent.
But as a leader, he does not scream generational leader, will be able to lead teams to Super Bowls. Guys will rally around that guy.
Right. Like even like Washington holds the number 2 pick. And at least, I mean, I was watching Mel Kiper's mock draft special the other day, and listen, This is just his first mock draft, so we're early in the process and everything, but he has Jaden Daniels going number 2.
I want him to
Washington. That's what I'm saying. Like I think Daniels is better. I would take him over May. And
100%.
if Jaden Daniels ended up having the best career of those 3, I wouldn't be surprised in one bit. I really wouldn't.
The only reason Jaden Daniels is going to get a knock over those 2 guys is because of his age, because he's older. So you can view it as, he had 40 touchdowns. 24, 25, or yeah.
He's not that old. Hold
on. Well, think about it. He played 5 or 6 years of college football. Like, that's the knock.
He just turned 23.
Okay, 23. But a lot of these guys are like, okay, you're getting a Caleb Williams or a Drake May, 1 or 2 years younger, ceiling might be a little higher, or Jaden Daniels, who already might be close to what his ceiling is. I don't stand by that. I think Jaden Daniels is the epitome of what the NFL is today.
Yes.
So I hope the Bears take Caleb Williams. I hope Drake May goes to Washington, because as a New England fan, I need a non-pocket passer that can sling it, but can also run the hell out of the football. So I'd be fine with that. I like Jaden Daniels. He's my favorite quarterback this draft. Easily.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, listen,
Easily.
I will always go to bat for him. And even like the other guys, like, JJ McCarthy notwithstanding, I don't. Somebody's going to take him in the first round.
Is Jim going to take it, or would Jim Harbaugh take him in the first round just for, just to take him?
Be the stupidest move ever.
He's already got the money from him. What does he
Herbert
care?
locked up for 5 years. It'd be the most ridiculous thing. If Jim had gone to like Atlanta or something, I think you probably could have seen that at 8. I don't know. Nothing about JJ McCarthy screams special to me.
He screams 6th round talent.
Yeah.
I think Brock Purdy was better in college, if I'm being completely honest. And that's a hot take. That's a hot take. I think Brock Purdy was on a worse team. You put Brock Purdy.
Brock worked with, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. If you put Brock Purdy on Michigan, I think they're in the same situation.
Yeah, but I mean, the league is but when you evaluate these guys, it's all about traits and things like that, and less about college production, I guess.
Oh, 100%.
Because like, even if like he was coming out this year and like, I don't like, cause I see him like, I'm like Riley Leonard, for example, that's where I'm going down this. Like when he was initially thought to come out this year, okay, I watched that guy in college play and I went, meh. But I heard everybody telling me, oh, he's a first-round talent. He's a first-round talent. Well, it's just because, he's 6'5" or whatever, and he can move, and he's got all these great traits. But you never saw, at least to this point, I haven't seen the production line up. Maybe it will at Notre Dame this year. Who knows? But that's why it's so hard to evaluate quarterbacks, where you look at a guy like Michael Penix, as productive as any quarterback you're going to find in college football, and he was starting to get a lot of buzz, but then he laid the stinker in the national championship, and now it's like, it feels like everybody's backed off on him. But
yeah, but he can still go top 10.
That's what I'm saying. Should one game impact his entire stock? I would say no. But
no.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of moving parts there. A lot of teams looking for quarterbacks, but we got months to debate that. Like I said, we got the Senior Bowl coming up, the Combine after that, the draft and everything. The most long, drawn-out process ever. I've been an advocate of this. Let's just move the draft up a month or two, or a month and a half, please, because I hate this process of nitpicking guys to death and all these different evaluations, because things are going to change so much. I bet you Kuiper's last mock draft in April is going to look so much different than the mock draft that he had the other day on ESPN.
It better.
Of course, for your sake.
It better look different, Mel. I'm telling you. It better.
All right, well, that'll do it for us here on our Football Friday edition of the JP Peterson Show. The big news, like we said all day long, Dave Canales going to the Carolina Panthers, and the Bucs looking to fill another offensive coordinator vacancy for the second straight year in a row. Everybody that's going out to the Gasparilla, have fun, be safe. For those of you who are going to the Rumble, I will see you there. Sean will see you there. It's going to be fun as hell. Cannot wait for that. And, of course, the NFC Championship and AFC Championship games this weekend as well. Another great week in sports. We will see you on Monday. JP will be back with me. Have a great weekend and have a beautiful day in Tampa Bay. All the JP Peterson fans out there. See ya on Monday.